Hello, I guess hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and we are back again with the top 100 PWCC soccer items for the week. Really as simple as that, we do this every week, go through the top 100 items auctioned off this week. I will say this week, pretty unique. There's a lot of high-end stuff and just pretty fun auctions, so I'm excited to get into it, and let's go ahead and just do that. So we're starting at $120 this week. We have a couple Messis to start us off. We have the Monday Chromo here, a marbled vertical version that is in a PSA 9. Monday Chromo, nothing all too crazy, but a nice looking card, surely. 2016 Select Multicolor Prism. We then have a 1948 Tom Finney PSA 3. Pretty interesting looking from here. I couldn't really, I guess on the back, a lot of discoloration, good amount of staining, so I can see why I got a 3. It says with tabs. I'm not quite sure what that means. Maybe the top and the bottom, I guess you could probably just cut it out and get him by himself. That's probably what it's indicating, so that's cool to see. Pop 1 of 1, none higher. We have a Gio Reyna, so some USMNT getting up in here. PSA 7, so not great. Topps Museum, not going to be easy to grade, but that's not a good one. We do have a 95 Calciatore Buffon, so this is a Japanese back, the more rare of the backs. This is an SG7, goes for 126. We then have a gold Cristiano Ronaldo, national VIP out of 10. That seemed, low for an out of 10 Ronaldo, but at the same time, I guess it's, Juve kit. It's 2022, which is strange because at that point, he's at Man U, but I guess they're probably still working off old stuff. So, yeah, not really that great, I guess, of a card, but still kind of crazy. There was a time where basically anything out of 10 of the GOATs would just do an insane amount, and we are far from that at this point. 2022 Phil Foden. This is a sticker patch auto. Next to it, we have a 1962 Vava SGC5 from the Vecchi set. This, really high grade, basically highest sale I could find on Card Ladder for a Vava Vecchi. But when you look at the back, this seems pretty clearly removed to me. You can just tell there's discoloration up on the basically in every corner. Usually when I see discoloration in every corner, I just assume that's glue. Pretty good removal. Obviously, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot missing, but to me, that's pretty apparent that something was going on. Next to we have a 1950 Cosmos Fritz Walter here. Not a lot to get from him, so a pop 1 of 1, just 1 higher is pretty cool to see. This is recently graded though, which is always something of note. Above that, we have a Mason Mount Green Sapphire out of 99, goes for 138. You think he's fallen a lot, but even then, to see this selling at the same price as this Harry Kane Gold out of 50, obviously, this isn't a rookie, it's just sort of a Topps Chrome Year Kane that is sort of random, I guess you could say, but still, it's out of 50 gold Kane, and that's, best player in the Premier League for a long while. You could argue Salah and others, of course, but goal scoring wise, none really paralleling him. So to see him sell for the same as that, to me seems like good value, especially at a 10. That's not bad at all. Next to that, we have a David Beckham Upper Deck 3 Lion. So this is numbered out of 5,000. PSA 8 goes for 138. So, about as high of a numbering as you're going to see typically in soccer. There's not a lot of, 1,000 plus numberings. Here I bid in everything. I think going forward, I want to be less involved. I watch a lot of things, and at the end, I'm just so focused. So I want to put in low ball bids. If they win, I'm happy. This Dixie Dean was pretty cheap late, so I took a stab at it. This is a more common version of his early releases, but it would be a start, and I think a decent start at that. Next, we have a couple Heinerle. Since I have the Pele, I'm going to try to build the Heinerle set a little bit. I threw some lowball bids in here. Realistically, I'd like to maybe get a little bit higher grade, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind 3s and 4s. That's still decent for the set. Above that, we have a 2017 Topps Chrome Lightning Strike Mbappe, goes for 156. And next, we have a PSA 10 Molar. I did look up just to see how that's doing. This one does 168. Last one a month ago did 216. Last one before that did 264. So, dropping a good bit, but there wasn't a sale before this for a long while. It was 456 back then. So, wasn't a sale for a long time, and then it still drops and drops quite a bit and continues to drop. So that's a tough look, really. I mentioned it before, but Thomas Muller has a lot of rookies, which is why I think that sort of happens. And midfielders in general just aren't collected at the same rate. So, although we did mention last week with the Neymar, Neymar, extremely low pop in high grades especially, and still very cheap. So, sort of those secondary stars not really seeing the love that they once had, it seems. 2002 Thierry Henry PSA 10. Cool looking sticker. Don't really see this much, so that was a fun see. But pop 1 of 1, so that's interesting. You know, surely you wouldn't think, I mean, if it's worth getting graded, it won't be pop 1 of 1 for a long time. But at the same time, you know, how many people are grading Thierry Henry 2002 stickers in hopes of high grade? Probably not many. Above that, we have, you know, some odds and ends here of vintage in 1935 Miata that we see a good bit. SGC2 goes for 174. The Pele Marcus Stella, which isn't really a Pele, at least as far as I'm aware, that doesn't look like Pele. Then we have a 1968 Panini Calciatore Franz Beckenbauer PSA 7. Always love the look of this one. Very clean. I'm not usually a fan of the green border, but matched up with that blue and red Bayern kit, looks very, very good. 168 for a pop 1 of 3, none higher. My lone win of the week, I did get a 1938 Koenig here, a Zamora and Hoffman. A couple legends of the time, Zamora being, you know, more notable, also having the Spain border and flag for him. So was happy to add that. Basically, since I've gotten the Nasasi a few weeks back, I've made a list of, you know, 15 to 20 that I would like to hit, and the goal is either high grade Nil Princess Ramona backs, which is this red back, or low to mid grade of some of the more rare backs. With this one, I didn't mind going for the Nil Princess Ramona back, so I did that, and I ended up winning. Very happy for that. PSA 6 for Koenig's really, really good. About as, you know, good as you're gonna get. In total, I think I checked PSA, and there's like 6 or 7 7s/8s in total, so 6 is about as high as generally there's gonna be. Was happy to get that, and excited to keep on building. Next to that, we have an Idemar Pele here, and a PSA 2 goes for 186. We see that a fair bit, I would say. 1953 to Stefano, also see a fair bit. This in a PSA 6 goes for 200. We'll see a 7 here in a few. We have a Vinny Leaf Auto. This is numbered out of 10, goes for 198. Next to it, a Thierry Henry Superfoot. I don't see these all too often. PSA 7 goes for 200, so, you know, a decent price point at that. Of course, the second year, so, you know, that's going to play a role, but at the same time, you know, I barely ever see these, and that pulls a decent price. So typically, if, you know, they're selling, I would see them, I feel like, on the PWCC auction. Cool to see here. Also another one, you know, sort of in that same realm, you don't see 63 A and BC Bobby Moores all too often. This is a PSA 5. Did look up a comp on this. Actually, last one was sold on PWCC 5 years ago. So sold for 67 down here at the bottom. You can't quite see it, but trust me, same card. And this one goes for 204. So tripled in price, but, you know, comparatively seemed like a pretty fair price. I mean, SGC 4 went for 72. PSA 2 did 40 this year as well. So doesn't seem too bad. And as you can tell, I mean, they don't sell all too often. Probably could find them wrong, but at the same time, given how many, I mean, I see selling here, you would think you would see more, I guess, if they're that available raw. Fun, though, if you're, you know, an England person, to pair that up with a Charlton would be a good get, I would say. We have a 1962 at Villarreal of Pele here, PSA 1. Always loved the look of this. You know, personally, I don't prefer, like, suit pictures as much, but it actually doesn't look too bad there. We have a 2003 Upper Deck Ronaldo PSA 8 goes for 216. Look this up just to see where it was. There was a best offer apparently for 400, fixed price for 450, fixed price for 275. So yeah, I guess honestly that kind of happens, right? You know, you could say that those were fake, but honestly at the same time we haven't really seen any auctioned off, so I'd imagine there's just not a lot of people willing to auction this. This is one of those cards that was very plentiful. I'm guessing people sent them in hordes whenever prices were really high. Most people, if you had them, you graded them, and you probably sold them already. So, you know, I could see how this bounced back on fixed price, and then how it would probably let down a little bit on auction, because, you know, we saw the auction prices keep going down, but when there's not any auction, if you do want it, you got to go best offer it. And so I could see that, you know, it could be a good flip if you're someone that's into that. If you go and, you know, list that on eBay, you might be able to get a good bit higher. SGC 5 Ronaldinho Pepsi card. I believe, I don't know, I want to say these were made in Japan, but maybe I'm totally off on it. Bit different of a format though, and goes for 260. I mean, feels like a decent price for a 2000 Ronaldinho. You know, especially one that I guess just sports a lot of Pepsi. Unless you're a big Pepsi guy, personally, I don't mind it, but you know, I wouldn't want to, you know, have a Pepsi section in my collection, I guess. We have a 66 Pele here, a Ferrero Euro Gallo. Yeah, nice looking one. Honestly, I don't see this all too often. PSA 3 pop 1 of 2-4 higher. Looks pretty clean. I like the kit. I like the background. That is quite a cool copy, and the back looks good as well. So that would make sense for 3. Honestly, looks pretty decent, I would say. We have a Miatza 1937 PSA 2, goes for $234. Looks a little bit like the Nanina sense of, a couple decades later. Then we have a 1963 Nanina Pele. This is a postcard, goes for $252. Personally like the image a lot. Not a big postcard guy myself, but, that's just me. Keeping it moving, 2011 here of KDB, second year PSA 10. Pop 1 of 9 goes for $264. Doesn't feel like a bad price, to be honest, for second year, but obviously PSA 10 going to pull in a premium. 66 Pele here, 66 Panini Pele here. It goes for $264 in a BVG 6.5. We also have a nice looking Alfredo Di Stefano PSA 8, pretty high grade pop, 1 of 2, none higher from the Panini Calciatore set. I think I took a look at this just because I was interested, honestly. PSA 5 went for 81, PSA 2 went for 30. So if we just look around, basically, PSA 7 went for 360. Seems like a pretty good get. Honestly, I always have liked the look of this set. I really do just enjoy like clear white borders, a really nice vibrant nameplate along with a good badge, and just a nice portrait shot. I think it has everything, at least for what I want. And yeah, I mean, really good get for whoever the buyer was. It feels like a fun one. Then we have a 1947 Nanina here, and SGC 3 going for $264. To be honest, not too familiar with the player, but I'm doing my best to learn. So in due course, we'll get there. But I do like the look of it. Also seems to be sporting a Juve kit, and got the nice badge up there. Love the color scheme as well. Next, we have a Franz Binder. So this is basically, from what I understand, a pseudo rookie of his. I bid a little bit on this, but I was a good bit lower, I would say. Really like the look of it though. The borders are always just going to be amazing here with the Koenig set. So PSA 6 again, notable in the sense that pop 1 of 2, none higher. We then have a Sastre. This was one that basically I don't even think PSA is graded. I don't know if that's just because they don't, or maybe they haven't gotten any. But basically, anything early career for him is very, very low pop. Goes for $288 here. We'll see an even earlier item of his later. Here we have a 1948 Ben Barrack. PSA 8, this is a player that I've seen in the 50 sets, and from what I understand, this is to be a true rookie. PSA 8, pop 1 of 1, none higher. Looked up comps on this, but couldn't find anything, so, that's sort of where you're at on that one. But yeah, certainly a fun one if you're into that. Next to that, we have a Kareem Benzema out of 30 tie-dye. This seemed like a really high price to me. Yeah, I mean, I know people like tie-dye. Personally, I like tie-dye. I know people like PSA 10, but I mean, $312 for a Benzema tie-dye. You can almost get like Ronaldo's with near that price. And obviously, you're not going to get them in a 10, but at the same time, I'd much rather have a Ronaldo than a Benzema. I mean, come on. Lionel Messi 2004 PSA 6 goes for $324. Feels like a pretty decent price. I'm guessing PSA slab helps pull that. And honestly, the eye peel on the front's pretty good. There's nothing really all that noticeable from that picture. Above it, PSA 7, Roberto Baggio Calciatore goes for $324. We have an Alex Morgan Game Used. This is just the name of the set. There's nothing Game Used involved in it. I've seen that before, and it's always sort of confused me, but now I am well aware. Next, we have a Di Stefano PSA 7, so it gets a good premium over the 6, of course. Goes for $360. These are down, of course. I don't think I looked them up. No, I did not, but generally we see these quite a bit, so it's within the range of what you sort of expect at this point. 2022 Vinicius Maroon Prism. This is out of 22, so sort of a fun one in that regard. 2022 Qatar flag, maroon colors, sort of all is supposed to make sense, and seems like a fun one to me if you're not someone that either wants to chase a gold or already has a gold. $372 for a Vinny. Seems like a good price. Also, PSA 10 helps to make that happen. Alternatively, could go for the Marcus Berg 1 of 1 black from 2018, which, to each their own. Obviously, a super collector out there that was very keen on it and, paid up for it, $372. I always hope that these types of cards go to collectors. I assume they do, but if not, that's always where I worry a little bit. In the sense of, finding a buyer for a Marcus Berg 101 is probably pretty hard. Hopefully the right one got it tonight, and, that finds its home. 1974 Platini PSA 5 goes for $384. I don't know if this is a good price, but at least at one point in the auction, I thought it was. But then I looked at the back, and, basically, whenever you look at these backs, I'm not going to do it because you can just take my word for it. But if you zoom in, there's just missing text where you can see, like, breaks in the lettering, which shouldn't be there. And so that's a pretty clear cut, at least to me. I thought this was stuck, so I avoided it, but, probably gets a hefty discount given the nature, I would assume. In this row, we have a 1967 foil Pele. Always love, just the orange behind the crest here. Massive crest here for the one and only Pele. Off to the side in his own little oval. PSA 2 goes for $384. See this a fair bit, always gets a good premium. I feel like it's deserved. Then we have a 2022 Erling Haaland. This is a bursting onto the scene. Basically, from what I am to understand, someone told me these are out of 100. I don't really know. I don't know if they're numbered. It says 1 of 9, but basically there's 9 in a set. You're trying to put it together. It ends up making, I think, 3 trophies with Haaland depicted on Salzburg, Dortmund, and Man City. I think that's what happens. Gets a good price. I mean, $400 for pop 1 of 3, none higher. PSA 9 as well. So, could have been a 10. Probably would have got it on premium at that point. But yeah, seems like a pretty pricey set to put together at this point. I mean, it's fun. It's unique. I like it in that aspect, but it's, not anything I'll be chasing right now. We have a refractor Haaland from the 2019 Bundesliga. This goes for a little under 400. I know it's PSA 8, but to me that feels cheap. We'll see stickers later that do, a much bigger premium. And personally, I'd take a low-grade refractor, I feel like, over a good grade sticker, but maybe that's just me. 2018 treble here, we have a base Kylian Mbappe, goes for 408, a PSA 9. That feels really strong. I mean, from what I understand, there are people that collect the 2018 Panini treble base set. Personally, I wouldn't be too big of a fan of it because honestly, people didn't even collect the parallels until a couple of years ago. So, collecting the base is a little iffy to me. But I guess it's in the Mbappe rookie constellation, if you want to call it that. I don't think that personally, but some people do. 1997 Futera, Manchester United, goes for 408 here for David Beckham. Don't see this all too often, so that's a fun one. Pop 1 of 7. Valita back here, blue name, Eusebio, goes for 432. I did look this one up, and this feels really cheap. We saw a PSA 4 Valita back. Now this has the eye appeal designation, but goes for almost double, just a half grade higher. There's also a yellow, this is a yellow, this is a yellow PSA 1 with a Valita back. This is a whole different world, but that goes for 2,500, which can show you just how much things can turn. Now this is really, really low pop, so, that's a whole different world, to be honest with you. But yeah, even a PSA 1, sure, with an eye appeal, but a PSA 1 went for $250 in August. So, a PSA 3.5 for $432. I didn't know if that was Valita back or not, but no matter the case, we'll keep it moving. But that seems like a pretty low sale. Maybe the back's messed up. No, looks pretty good to me. Really like that sticker, so might be one I have to keep an eye on at some point. I'd like to get a yellow name theoretically, but, maybe start with the blue. 2020 Topps Chrome Pedri Yellow Sapphire Edition. This goes for $492 in a PSA 10. Next up, we have a 1958 Pele with, the rest of the Brazilian team, but we're all here for Pele. PSA 2 goes for $500 there. Pop 1 of 410 higher. Erling Haaland sticker and presumably, not game worn patch goes for $528, which it feels like a pretty decent price. Maybe it's game worn. I'm gonna look down here. No, okay, not game worn. It feels like a decent price for an Erling Haaland sticker, but maybe an 8.5 helps it. I don't know. Above that, we have one Sapphire this week. Really, only one. Typically, we have like 3 or 4. Just one this week, but it goes for $550. These are down a good bit. They were $700 to $800 basically every day of the week, but now they are down. Next up, we have a Heinerle Yashin PSA 4. Goes for $552. Personally, this was on my radar. It feels like a pretty good sale, despite the comps. The comps are $780, $720. Earlier this year and actually last year. When you think of a vintage item that had a lot of hype last year, that's only down, 30%. It's really not that bad comparatively with what happened to a lot of vintage. I also think, sure, this is a PSA 4, but I don't know. I just can't get by this huge border on the side. To me, this feels miscut and should be labeled as such. I'm assuming that was taken into account for the grading, but, sometimes it's hard to tell with PSA, so I'll trust him at least for this time, I guess. We have a 1964 Panini Calciatore Pele and a PSA 6 goes for $564. Above that, we have a Titulares rookie and a PSA 1, obviously, pretty battered. Half the card tore up on the front. Back actually doesn't look that bad. The worst of it's on the front somehow, so that's interesting. Goes for $564 though, which is pretty low, but I don't really think that it's comparable to most PSA 1s, so I think that makes sense. We have a PSA 10 Kaboom Harry Kane that goes for near $600, pop 1 of 26. Next to it, we have an Immaculate Collection Historical Significance Auto of Paolo Maldini, numbered out of 25, goes for $810. That is a huge step up. $588 to $810, nothing in that range apparently this week. Moving above that, we have an Mbappe PSA 9 sticker, goes for $810. This is in the range we've seen, about $800 to $900 typically. Marcelo out of 10, Prism Gold goes for $900 or near that in a BGS 9.5. Feels like a solid price. Gold Prism's a whole different world, but at the same time, I don't know a lot of Brazilian collectors that probably want to cherish the 2014 Brazil World Cup. There are also Prism collectors just for gold itself, so that's probably more so who that is. Johan Cruyff, 1969, realistically 68 through 70. Van der Hoot, PSA 7 goes for $870. Make of the backs what you will. I'm not going to go through and look at everyone. That's supposed to be PSA's job, but, this is one that's been subjected to a lot of removed copies getting high grades, and so that's played a decent role in hindering the price point on those. But I guess if you're a collector looking to try to find your own little avenue, that's a good way of doing that too. Above that, we have a 1990 Stoichkov rookie. PSA 9 goes for $960. Pop 1 of 1, none higher. So really interesting in that regard. Seems noticeably off center, so I'm guessing that's basically the only problem with it. And always love the look of this. I mean, I think it's one of the best looking stickers from the 90s. I'll leave it to from the 90s, but I do think it's really good. Love the flag in the background, just absolutely beautiful. You got the Barca badge, and you have two pictures, but I don't feel like either really takes away from the other all too much, so looks really good, and pulls a good number as well, near 1,000 on that one. We then have the Millenario Pele here. This is the number 7 version. There's different numberings. This goes for $960 and a PSA 4, which is a pretty decent grade. Pop 1 of 3, none higher, so got that going for you. Then we have a Thierry Henry, but realistically a Cristiano Ronaldo Panini Treble Auto. I had my eye on this at least for a little bit because it was just insanely cheap, and I figured, maybe might go ahead and try my hand at it. I did recently get a graded version of the correct card, basically. If you look at it, the front has Cristiano Ronaldo, but the back, when he flips it over here, will say Thierry Henry at the top. So basically, it's a Thierry Henry card, I presume, that someone messed up and just put the Ronaldo sticker auto on it, and they just probably were like, this is a grave error, but we have to release it as is, because how are we going to, remove them all? We can't send them back. So just sort of this weird scenario. When you look up comps on this, I only find one on Card Ladder, so it does seem to be, relatively rare that these exist. But, I just sort of wonder, do you care? Do you really, most of the time people go after these error cards where there's cases of, you can't find cards that are rare, so you're trying to create your own rarity. This is an interesting one because, I don't know. I'd love to hear if you care. Do you think that, just because it has Thierry Henry on the back and there's less of them, that is an interesting buy? Personally, I actually like it with Cristiano Ronaldo on it because I think it's, cohesive with what the card should be, and it actually says CR7 in sort of, the card numbering, or I guess how they label it. So I find that to be really cool. But at the same time, I think there's something to be said about, I guess, an error card and where that stands. So I'd be interested in what you guys think on that. I battled with it mentally, and I still don't know if I came out with the result, but, we're working on it. Above that, actually another Cristiano Ronaldo, 2013 Topps English Premier League. Couldn't tell if this was sticker. I mean, just due to the size of it, I feel like it's not, and it's kind of smeared there. I think that's on card. And if so, that's a really cool one from the 2013 season. You got the Manchester United kit, although, at that point, it's not at Manchester United, so I guess it's a little bit of a retrospective card, and that's probably why it's hindered a good bit, I would say. This one apparently won't be selling. Basically, when you look at the back, there is, all this text, which indicates that basically it is, I think from 1974. I think that was the reprint year, but basically they went back and they reprinted the 1958 Aquarella set, but there's text on the back, so you can actually, identify that that's the case. If that wasn't the case, it'd be interesting if we could identify it or not, and that would be, sort of a whole whirlwind of its own. But a PSA 2 here goes for $1,100, which just goes to show sort of the lack of knowledge sometimes. I mean, a PSA 2, if it was legitimate, would probably go $1,500 to $2,000, so it would go a bit higher. But at the same time, someone was willing to pay up quite a bit on this, and presumably they don't know that it's actually a reprint, which is, scary, right? 2019 Foosball Holland, this is what I was referencing earlier with sticker doing pretty good. We saw the Topps Chrome Sapphire has been dropping, but despite that, the sticker's actually done a little bit of an upward trend lately. So during the summer, during the off months, was down to 900 to 1,000, sort of teetering, which is a scary spot to teeter, if I'm being honest, because, it can kind of just drop to 500 pretty quick. And actually, season starts back up. Holland isn't doing anything, at least, noteworthy for him. And still up a good bit. So that's interesting. Sort of looks like some seasonal trending to me. But At least that's what I would tend to think. This is a card, or I guess a sticker, that's, you know, pretty plentiful, so it's not something where like no copies are coming to market and people feel like they gotta get it, you know. So it goes for $12.60 on auction. Feels solid, I mean, on auction. The Mundi Deportivo R9, this is a sad story, but, you know, one that is either being hurt by just excess, you know, copies being found, or potential fakes being graded. Either way, PSA 7s, I mean, these at one point were multiple thousands pretty easily, maybe even higher. You know, 8s were going for 8 to 12,000 consistently. So this is a really low sale. This is around what the 5s were doing. So yeah, I mean, that seems like a pretty big domino that dropped in terms of these. We have the 2019 Finest Erling Haaland. This is basically a short print within the set, a set that has Haaland with the Salzburg kit, but instead it's a Dortmund kit. And this goes for a relatively low price. I actually looked this up as well. This went for $12.90. The last one did $2,300, and that was a long time ago. It feels like a card that probably isn't best suited for a PWCC auction block. I think this would do better on just a buy it now, best offer, you know, wait and see what you can get, because it's sort of a niche card. And, you know, if you're the buyer of that, you probably could flip it a good bit, I would assume, because we saw the Haaland graph with the, you know, with the sticker, and that was going up, and if he does anything in the season, you'd presume it goes up, and you just got this at 50%, so that doesn't seem bad to me. $12.90, pretty cool there. You know, not really my favorite card, honestly. I'd rather have anything Salzburg kit from the Finest set, but, you know, to a particular individual, it might be a good one. 2018 Immaculate Baggio, Ronaldo, and Paulo Rossi. So that's a fun one. Paulo Rossi's signature also absolutely horrid up there. I am not a fan of that. Looks like someone just scribbled on it. But yeah, you're probably buying this for the Ronaldo. BGS 9 goes for $13.50. Fun for a Juve collector, certainly. Moving above that, we have 2019 Refractor Finest Haaland. So yeah, I mean, you know, that's a pretty good price. I guess it's a refractor, so it sort of makes sense, but $1,400. I lost this. I did not bid that high. I just threw in a marker bid that if it went low, I'd get, but this is actually a pretty good looking copy. You can't see the front quite as much, but I'll pull it out here. You can see the back, though. It looked pretty good. Moving on over here, we have the front, which, you know, a little out of focus, but on it, well, I guess the eyes are, you know, a little rough. But if you go right here, right, you just zoom out a little bit, it looks pretty good for one. You do have the stain here, but generally speaking, all is well. Colors are very nice. You don't have anything all too bad in the back. I mean, pretty solid for what you'd expect from a PSA 1. So generally, pretty nice copy, I would say. You know, one that, of course, as you can tell, I am looking for in a low grade. Looked at the comps on this. This went for $1,500. Last one did $1,400. Last one before that did $1,800 on a fixed price. Last one was $1,200. So actually, you know, in the ballpark, maybe up a little bit depending on which comp you go off of. Usually, I like to compare auction comps to auction comps and keep fixed prices as almost their own comps. That's sort of the upper boundary, right? So, yeah, not bad there. Then we have a Dixie Dean PSA 6, went for $15.60. This, along with the other two Koenigs, I didn't mention it earlier, were all reran. Presumably, you know, someone doing some bad things and pushed them a little high. Didn't end up paying for them for whatever reason. Actually, I think I looked on Card Ladder, and I think it confirmed that this was paid for. I could be totally wrong. I'm going to look. I guess looking here, you can tell that there was 2.5 months between the purchase and sale of this. They're both the same copy. I looked in the PWCC sales history, and it said it was paid for. So, you know, one of the situations where you'd probably presume it was a shill, but seems to just be someone that bought into them and then, for whatever reason, wanted to get out of them. The Dixie Dean, that last time this pulled $2,000, this time $1,500. So, you know, a decent bit of a drop, but at the same time, if you're going to buy something and sell it immediately after, you know, that's kind of to be expected. It's going to go to the second highest bidder more than likely, and they're going to, you know, be bidding against the third highest bidder, and so that just plays itself out, right? We then have a 1958 PSA 2, a real Aquarella here. God, the colors are so much better than that fake one from 74, I guess a reprint one. This is a PSA 2, goes for $1,600. Really like the look of this one. I mean, the back looks pretty clean too. I mean, golly, I think for a 2, that's not bad at all. Goodness, I've never really been impressed by a low grade Aquarella, but that one really gets me. Next we have a Cruyff. Alternatively, personally, I take the Palarex over that every single day of the week, but to be honest, they both are just so good looking and great staples of vintage soccer. 1968 Cruyff Palarex goes for $16.50. look this one up as well, I would presume. I did indeed. This goes for $1,650. Last one, $1,800, $1,800. And then if we go to last year, you know, there's an eye appeal sticker here for $38. But other than that, it's basically in the range that we've been seeing. Those seem to be pretty slow and steady. Notably, this year, we haven't seen a lot of them sell. We have one here at $1,800, $1,800, $1,600. And then there hasn't been a sale before that until December. While last year, look at all these sales. I mean, there was just sale after sale after sale after sale after sale last year. So, you know, whole different world we're in at this point, and seems ripe for growth. At the same time, you know, I'd presume a lot of people were just, you know, getting albums, removing, grading, and now that profit or that incentive probably isn't there. Albums have dried up, and this is sort of the new world I think we're entering. Of course, with cheaper stuff, that's not as much the case, but I think with some of the expensive stuff it is. PSA 4 here of a 71 bis goes for $1,700. Feels like a decent price, but about what they go for. This is the autograph version of the Dortmund kit from the Finest set. PSA 8 goes for $1,900. We have a PSA 5 71 bis, goes a slight bit higher than the 4, not really much of a premium on that, which is interesting to see. We have a Galactic PSA 9 next to it for $2,100. I did look this up because we don't see it all too often, and it seemed to be a pretty low sale. There was a BGS 8 recently that went for $1,500 and a 9.5 for $5,500, so a 9 going for $2,100. Seems pretty low. I do like to look at past sales. I mean, with most cards we look at in these auctions, I talk about at one point or another what they used to sell for back in the day, because I think it's a good reference point. You know, some cards are at what they sold at back in the day. Some cards are, you know, 5x, 3x, 10x, 20x, and this is a card that, you know, was $200 in 2019, and now Galactic sort of have this whole narrative and a lot of collectors and, you know, sort of this love in the hobby, and now it's $2,000, which is obviously, you know, quite the increase, and one that, you know, you have to take into account when you're buying the item and know what you're getting into. Above that, we sort of start into what are Grail-like cards in Ultra Modern. From what I understand, there was basically a Chinese Instagram account or a Chinese, you know, following that took in submissions and sent them off to PWCC, sort of like a, you know, a grading submission, but for an auction block instead. And so we have some fun cards up here. We have a 1/1 Immaculate Ronaldo going for $2,100. Again, you know, feels like a good price, but 1/1s you really can't comment on. BGS 10 Topps Finest Erling Haaland. Purple goes for $2,500. Feels like you know, a decent price if you're the buyer. Personally, I'd rather have that than the refractor we saw earlier down here for, you know, $1,300. I guess it's, you know, almost double the price, so that's fair. But BGS 10, I mean, that's pretty huge, you would think. We have a 2016 Noir Club Signatures Cristiano Ronaldo. Really, really nice looking card there, him in the Madrid kit. Did look this up. This goes for $2,700. Prior it was $1,200, $500, $500. So, you know, this is the type of card where, again, compared to the Galactic, I'd feel more comfortable with this. You see the rise from $500, stays at $500, a year later goes up to $1,200, and now is $2,700. And I mean, only doubling from 2018 isn't really that crazy. So yeah, I mean, that's a card, you know, I would feel a bit more comfortable with. Above that, we have a 2018 NT Colossal Patch Auto going for $2,880. Next to it, we have an Anina Pele here in a PSA 4 with a PWCC eye appeal going for $3,100. Big sale there. I mean, new all-time high for the card itself, from what I can tell. There was a PSA 4 that did $2,000. Notably, there's also versions that look to the right and look to the left. I'm not sure on the rarity. I looked through all the sales, and honestly, it seemed about 50-50. So I'm not sure if one carries a premium over the other. I'd love to know if you guys know down below. Any help is appreciated. But yeah, really high sale there. And again, this is a type of card where you know there's some history, because this was going for $800 in what is a pretty off-center, you know, wouldn't be desired in this market, right? People nowadays, they just want center and they don't care. Still a great, you know, item. I want to say sticker, but it could be a card. Nonetheless, goes for, I guess, $800 and now is valued at $2,500, which is actually pretty close to what we have. Then we have an out of 99 purple Messi 2014 Prism that goes for $3,300. Took a look at this. I thought initially that it was pretty high. It actually, I mean, within the, you know, range of the last couple sales. We have a 2022 sale here for $3,600. January sale for $3,300. This one goes for $3,300, so right on the dot. But before this, I guess, you know, if we go back to sort of the boom days, I mean, even a 9.5 back in sort of the Prism boom days was going for $5,000, $6,000. I mean, $7,000 at the peak, sure, down from there. But, I mean, relative to most Messis, hasn't really taken too big of a beating. Personally, I'm a little intrigued by that because, I mean, I would rather have the blue pulsar, the green crystals, the gold, and you could probably convince me there are, you know, other inserts with parallels I'd rather have. So there's a lot of other ones better than the purple. The purple seems to be sort of like the odd stepchild when it comes to the 2014 collecting set. So Messi's taken a little bit of a step down from, you know, the days of entering Inter Miami and the, you know, blue skies, rose-tinted glasses, all that fun stuff. But, you know, now a little bit more back to normal. We have an Immaculate Collection Celebration Ronaldo out of 25 going for 4,200. These are really fun ones. Immaculate has a ton of fun autos in the 2017 set. Next, we have a 2018 Eminence Ronaldo auto and a World Cup Champions from 2002 Ronaldinho auto. Both of these get a good premium. The Brazilians generally don't have a lot of, you know, on-card items and, you know, very high-end scents that have been released, and so these are going to do crazy numbers, which of course they do. The World Cup Champions, one of my favorite of almost any of the on-card auto sets, always just a really cool one to see, and, you know, a Ronaldinho one at that is made all the better, of course. Could go back and look at comps. They're going to be, you know, pretty massive raises over the time that soccer's become a thing, but rightfully so. These are great cards. And then we go into the top three, which, I mean, this week, again, you know, just massive cards. We have a Noir 2016 out of 60 signatures Messi. I did look that one up as well. This one goes for 5,600. Before this, it did 47, 68, 61, 61, and back in the day, you know, closer to release, 500. But, you know, different world. Again, that's sort of something to note, right? You know, if something's 10 to 20x, I feel a little less comfortable. If something's 2, 3, 4x, that's a nice spot to be. But on-card autos, especially of, you know, great soccer players, are just so hard to come by that they just sort of are in their own world at this point. Also has to be said, you know, Chinese collectors absolutely love and adore this type of stuff, so it's right up their wheelhouse. And, you know, with that low of numbering, you're typically going to have, you know, at least a few collectors absolutely going at it, and that's what we see here. We then have a 2 out of 2 gold proof here of the 2016 Panini Flawless Cristiano Ronaldo. Sort of the ruby coloring, it seems, going on the side. And yeah, the gold proofs are basically sort of their own thing. To be honest, I'm not quite too sure, you know, how they're valued. I know that, like, Ronaldo and Messi seem to have quite a lot of them, so it just seems to be, to me at least, sort of this thing to add more autos and pump the product a bit more. Sort of have the feel of like a black box, but they're not the black box style of release. Those are much different and much more diminished in my mind, but at least that's sort of how it's perceived to me. Would love to know more about them, but, you know, obviously I'm not dealing in the realm of this Ronaldo or Messi high-end autos, so, you know, not really my thing. But then we ended off with the big daddy of the night. One thing I did want to add is, you know, we were aided by some of these on-card autos, but this week I think there was at least 6 or 7 cards in the top 100 in terms of total PWCC auction from soccer, and that's probably an all-time high. If not, it's up there. I feel like soccer's doing a little bit better in terms of relative to everything else. I think we're kind of holding our own throughout this year, which not a lot of other things are, which is good to see. For us, obviously, of course, you know, not for others, but 2019 orange, here we have the Erling Haaland topping us off at 15,000. Nice bid coming in here on that. That's numbered 17 out of 25. I guess you're never really going to get a jersey number, but yeah, pulls an absolutely huge number. Yeah, this one goes for 15. Last one did 18 on a best offer. Last one before that did 15, and so, you know, seems to me to be basically right on the dot. I guess 9.5 back in the day did a little bit higher, but, you know, no matter how you slice it, that seems like a pretty decent sale. I mean, 15,000 for a prospect. Of course, it's a numbered, but at the same time, you know, orange isn't really the number people desire or covet all that highly, but of course it is numbered out of 25, so it's going to pull a good premium, and it does just that. Overall, really had fun this weekend. Overall, really had fun with this week. Ton of unique stuff. I mean, especially up here in the high end, that was sort of its whole, you know, own thing with the addition of the Chinese shipment. That was very, very kind to see. Tons of fun cards, you know, pretty solid in the upper end. You know, haven't seen a lot of cards like $500 and above. That was almost half the auction block this week, which was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. So, but yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, of course, make sure to leave a like. Would appreciate it greatly. Any thoughts on the auction block, let me know down below. Would love to hear it. Something that sold high, low, anything you might have bought, would love to see it down below in a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.